All right, World History students, Tree Hall here, and what I'm doing is I'm showing you how to do the Project 2 timeline assignment. That's the purpose of this video. So if you open up this assignment in here and you start with the timeline, it's going to open up this timeline. Now for you, you're going to have your own individual copy when you open this, so you can edit right away. I'm going to do something a little different that you're not going to have to do because for yours, it makes your own copy. So let's see. I'm going to kill this. Taking me a sec to load this up. Perfect. All right, so let me kind of explain as this is loading up. I decided to rewrite the Project 2 because Project 2 talked about linking the Renaissance just to the Age of Exploration. And to be honest with you, I think that's a little bit small. The Renaissance was a rebirth, and all of European culture was kind of reborn during the Renaissance. And the best way to explain how the Renaissance affected Europe is it transported, or actually the world, is it transformed medieval Europe and medieval world into what we would recognize as the modern world. You know, if you think after the Renaissance, you have the Age of Exploration, you have this continuous trade that basically we've stayed with throughout, you know, the until today. You begin to see some of the governments that we would recognize today, like democracies and republics. You begin to see the religion that we would recognize today. So it really is this transforming point. A lot of the technology and scientific developments that we rely on for everything today were actually begun during the Renaissance. So that's the effect of the Renaissance on the world. It transformed the world into the modern world that you see today. So that is the essay topic that I decided to assign because it's actually a really easy essay to write, and it kind of allows you to do more things than theirs did. Now, the first part of this is that you have to turn in a timeline, and the original asked you to identify 15 events, and it gave you really no specifics on what to do. So I thought this one would work better for you because I'm going to actually ask you to describe 9 events, and those 9 events will eventually events/developments. Those 9 events will eventually go into your 3 body paragraphs inside your essay. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, again, you're going to have your own copy. So I'm going to make a copy here. So here's my copy. And you're going to end up filling this out. So what I do in the first part of this is I give you the essay topic, and that is using your knowledge of key historical developments during the era and the lessons from units 3 to 5. Write a 5-paragraph essay or 600 or more words that explains how the Renaissance transformed Europe and the world between 1300 and 1750. Your essay must address at least 3 of the following topics: artistic cultural development, political government development, economic development, religious development, scientific technological development. Now, in a later videos I'm going to do on the final draft of this essay, it's important to understand that when you see something like this, at least 3, that usually means that they're suggesting within the topic how you're going to organize your essay. And basically, you're going to have 3 body paragraphs that you're going to choose from this list here. So when you do your timeline, you want that to match your body paragraphs. And I'm mentioning this because this is important. Before you do the timeline, you should think about your essay, and you should think about what is going to be easiest for you to write, and your timeline should kind of match this. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go through and you're going to fill out all of these boxes here. And I'm going to go and fill out the first categories box so you can see what to do here. I don't think it's super complicated, but it's always good to get a little help. Okay, so it says here that I need to first open the Renaissance timeline. So I'm going to click this link. That opens the Renaissance timeline. Now, let me explain what you're seeing. And I spent hours today going through and making this. So what I got is a list of major events that happened in Europe and the world from about 1274 all the way up through, I think, the 1670s. because that's about where you're at when you get to the lesson 20. So maybe you're in the early 1700s, but I think I just stopped at 1670. You can go further when you go to write your final draft. Now, over on the left, you can see that this laptop I have is constantly freezing up. Over on the left, the events are listed in the order that they occur, and you'll notice that it's got the year, the event. So in 1600, that's when Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. And then afterward, it has the category. And so you can see that we've got a number of things here, and I color-coded these so you could recognize very easily what the categories are. When you look over here, you can see that it's listed by category, and then you can see that within category it's dated chronologically, but again, the dates are going to go all over. So up here on the right, I have all the artistic. These are the same exact events. It's just done in two different ways. So I have all the artistic, cultural, I have the economic and discovery, I have the political government. By the way, you'll notice that some of these have more than one category, and that's on something like that, you're going to have to choose which one is best. I listed what I thought was the first category first, and then the second category second, but those are events that could kind of go either way, and you can see, you can choose. Now remember, you're going to have to identify 9, you're going to have to describe 9 events and developments, and 3 in each category. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the worksheet. Remember, your worksheet is done and you can turn it in when everything is filled in. So you can see over here I've got category 1, and I've got the space for 3 events or developments with the years and the significance. I've got category 2, category 3, and so forth and so on. So I'm going to go back to my timeline. And I'm going to start with economic because, here's the thing. When you think of the Renaissance, everybody always thinks right away, oh, wait a minute, I have to do the definition of the Renaissance first. So that's the very first thing I have to do. Very first thing you have to do is define the Renaissance, and I usually use Wikipedia for things. And within your definition, you need to define it and also the years that it happened in. So I see here, Renaissance was a period from the 14th through 17th century, cultural bridge between Middle Ages and modern history, started as a cultural movement, later spread to the rest of beginning early modern age. So I would say the Renaissance was a cultural movement that happened in Europe from 1300 through 1700, and it transformed Europe from medieval to modern culture, something like that. So that's what I would put for the Renaissance. Now, it also asks for a definition of humanism. So I go back to my article. Okay, the intellectual basis was his own invented version of humanism. Classes, man is the measure of all things. This new thinking became early examples for blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the idea that man is the measure of all things, which means I should eliminate that period, that the people of the Renaissance were very concerned with achieving, actually I'll say this, with humanity achieving its full potential in all things, including the arts, culture, economics, and government. So that's what I would put for humanism. Kind of the idea that people can be all that they can be. The reason we are looking at this is because each event that we pick from the timeline, we are either going to have to describe how it transformed the world from medieval to modern, or how this event was connected to the Renaissance. And you can kind of do either or. Remember, inside of a good essay, you have information, you have analysis. Your information is the stuff that's going to be coming from Wikipedia. Your analysis is going to be the stuff that's coming from your mind, and that analysis is going to have to be connected to the Renaissance or the modern world. So I'm going to go category 1. For me, I feel like economics was a huge category. So for my category 1, I'm going to say economic discovery. And for my first event, I'm going to choose, and I don't want this green, so I'm just going to recopy. So I'm going to first choose the Medici Bank. So I will put that there, and that was in 1397. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And I am wondering, boy, there's a lot of stuff here. And I want to talk maybe about the discovery of the New World, but I'm going to just stick with economics. So I'm going to go with 1602, the incorporation of the Dutch East Indies Company. Whoops, I'll kill that. I don't need that anymore. And, well, since it happened in the same year, I'm going to talk about, actually, and I'll go 1600. I see that it happened even before that. In 1571, the London Stock Exchange was formed, and in 1602, the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. So I'm just going to go Okay, now I'm not done here, not even with the definitions. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up Medici Bank. And luckily enough, that's in Wikipedia. It was the largest and most respected bank. Let me see, estimating double entry system. And again, watching that show Ascent of Money, the Medicis figured out a way to charge interest when you really couldn't charge interest. So it was formed in Italy in, what does it say, 1397 by the Medici family. So that's good enough. So I've got a little bit of the who, what, where, and when. The when is 1397. The what is this is one of the largest and most successful banks in Europe. And the who were the Medici family, and the where was Italy. So I've got everything there, and that's what you want in a description of the event. Significance. Now, again, when you go to write this essay, you're going to be talking about how the world changed into the modern world. So when you look at that definition of Medici Bank, they were the first that figured out a way to charge interest, and they also figured out a good accounting system, the double entry accounting system of tracking debits and credits. And so this bank was the first one to figure out how to charge interest and to use a sophisticated accounting system. Banks like this become important to modern economies because they lend to investors, corporations, and even governments. So what I'm talking about, this is how it transformed into the modern world. This kind of set the pattern for all the other banks that would later come. The incorporation of the Dutch East Indies Company. So let's do this. And it's actually India Company. Truly transnational corporation. It was the first company in history to issue bonds and shares of stock to the general public. In other words, the Dutch East Indies Company was the first publicly traded company in the world. So this was the first international corporation. Nowadays, there's tons and tons of international corporations, but this was the very first. And by the way, what was it controlled? It was formed to control the trade that the Dutch were really into. So again, it was formed in 1602 by the Dutch. Okay, now for significance. Okay, so for significance, the modern world is full of large corporations that are traded on the stock market, and the Dutch East Indies Company set the mold for these later corporations and the modern economy. Now, if we go to London Stock Exchange, let's see if we can find it in Wikipedia. There we are. It was originally called the Royal Stock Exchange. So, Royal Exchange. This was the birth of a regulated stock market. So see, it was looks like it was destroyed. Oh, so it was established in 1669. I thought it was earlier than that. So let me see. Oh, okay, yeah. The Royal Exchange, 1571. Okay. Alrighty, so I get into this. formed in this stock exchange. What did it say there? It was down here where it talked more about this. Set the pattern for the modern model. Set the pattern for the modern model of stock exchange. Significance. Alrighty, stock exchanges like the London Exchange and the Amsterdam, those were the two first. Okay, so on this, when I look at stock exchanges like the London Exchange and the Amsterdam Exchange allowed investors and corporations to pool their money, develop capital, which would later be necessary for the Industrial Revolution and other developments. As you look at each of these events, again, you have a choice. You can tie these to the Renaissance, but I think it's easier to just talk about how they relate to the modern world, because that is really what the Renaissance did. It gives us this idea of that humans can be anything they want to be. And it says, hey, ambition is not bad, ambition is good. Government is not just something you live with, it's something you improve. Technology is what we use to master this world, and there's nothing wrong with trying to develop better technology. All of these things lead to this. And so when you pick your events, you want to pick events that you think are important. And on each of these, you write how this event helped transition us to the modern world, or how it helps the modern world function. Now, here's a promise I make to you. I'm not trying to kill you on this. I'm just trying to give you the first run over on an essay. If you have decent detail on your event, anything you write here that's even somewhat logical, that is just an effort, is going to automatically be right. So if you fill this up, you're generally going to have a good grade on this assignment. Remember that you have to pick 9 of these, that you have to pick 3 per category. Pick the events that you feel are most important, that you feel either most relate to the Renaissance, or I think even more important, most relate to the modern world, because that is the important thing that you're going to be writing about in this essay. What the Renaissance does is it creates the modern world. And what you see here in these events, you see the things that were on the ground floor: the first stock exchange, the first multinational corporation, the first bank that really got its act together and set the mold for the other banks. But if you look at political things, you'll find the same thing. If you look at the artistic and cultural developments, you're going to find the same thing in them. So that's how you pick the events. I hope that this video has helped you. And if you need any extra help, please let me know. Thanks. Bye.